Hello everybody, Out of the Park 22 video time again. So in this video I want to talk about some game settings that I used in my Phillies Out of the Park 22 sim and talk about kind of how that's making me think about settings to use in Out of the Park 23, of course assuming that there's no major overhaul to the game that would change the way that I look at the settings that I'm going to talk about. But I first want to start with the batter and pitcher aging speed. So I've always played these at the default of 1, as you see with the development speed. This year I put them at 0.8. I do think Out of the Park, players fall off quickly in their early 30s, which I don't really think is that unrealistic. I mean, peak age is really, guys are past their peak really by like age 27 in real life. I mean, you can still be good past your peak for sure. But many players are past their peak by the time they're to their late 20s. So I don't think it's really all that unrealistic in Out of the Park. And I don't mind the standard speed, but it's just a little bit faster than I'd like it to be, and maybe a little bit faster in real life. I don't know. That's just like kind of my impression. I haven't run any studies to confirm that or not. But certainly I think the 0.8 is too slow. I'm not going to use that again. Kind of anecdotally, if you watched my sim, we watched Bryce and Manny play into their, early 40s. Wander Franco put up 9 point something WAR at the age of 42 or something. But, also, there's also just a lot more older players out there. And I'm going to show you what I mean here, by the MLB player list. And if I just sort by age, like these are all batters. Let's just go to all players here. You can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players 40 or older. There's another like half a dozen 39 or older. I think the oldest player in MLB this past season might have been like Sergio Romo at age 38. So certainly I think the speed is a little slow here. Not only do you have guys playing too late, but you have guys who are just still really obscenely good. I mean, 9.4 WAR at age 40 here from Wander. And he's not really, plenty of these other guys, for some reason skipped down in the middle of the list there, are still performing as well. I mean, Vlad put up 3.1 WAR to 122 WRC plus. So this is too slow. The 0.8, I'm not going to go with. I think I might do 0.9 possibly if it's the same. And I did mean to say this at the beginning, kind of one of the reasons why I'm talking through this and why I like recording videos and talking about settings, because I like to hear what other people do too, and what other people use. So if you've got something on this that you use and kind of your experience with it, I'm interested in hearing about that. I would say my general impression so far, with this having been the first year I've ever tweaked this, is that 0.8 is too low. Maybe I'll go back to the standard 1, but I'm thinking maybe 0.9. I'll give that a try and go from there. But certainly I'd love to hear your kind of experience if you've tweaked the aging speed. I didn't change development speed. I didn't change talent TCR, talent change randomness. So let's go to the next one. The next one is trade difficulty. Now, Out of the Park had a major overhaul to the trade system this year, where it was a lot more difficult. I played with 1 above the default trade difficulty, and one notch towards favor prospects away from favors veterans. Now, before this year, before Out of the Park 22, I played with these maxed out. I played this all the way up and this all the way up, and I had for years. And at times I still didn't feel like it was challenging enough. I think that this 1-up was fairly challenging. I was able to trade for a lot of players. I was able to trade for players when I wanted them, but it was painful at times. And it was also because I was the Phillies and I could take on contracts that other teams wanted to get rid of. I think that's one area where it's still really easy to acquire players, is if they're on a bad contract or if they're on a big money contract, really, which is somewhat believable. I mean, Nolan Arenado had how many tens of millions of dollars sent with him to the Cardinals, and the Rockies didn't get back anybody who was considered a top prospect at the time of the trade. I mean, for hockey fans, Taylor Hall got traded for Adam Larson, or I guess Adam Larson got traded for Taylor Hall, right? Like, bad trades happen all the time. in real life. It's just when you're doing it against another human, it doesn't feel like you're exploiting something other than maybe another person. So, it feels different when it's an AI, which is an advantage of doing an online league. If you make a lopsided trade, it doesn't feel as scummy. So I don't know what I'm going to do here. I would say if I'm going to do anything, I might bump it towards favors prospects a little, although I found it difficult for trade for prospects. And I found it not difficult, but I found that what I was giving up for players was often a fair price. I remember I traded for Trevor Rogers and I gave up a lot. A few, at least 2 or 3 people, were like, you gave up too much for this guy. And it's like, basically, like, no, I got back one of the best pitchers in the game, so I'm fine. But when I was trading for top players, I had to give up multiple major league players who were contributing to my team. I traded for Jacob Maton at one point, who was like maybe a number 2-ish starter for the Mariners at the time. 5.7 WAR, 4.2 WAR. But I gave up one of the best prospects in baseball as the centerpiece of this deal. I haven't checked in on this guy in a long time. Cesar Paredes. He was, when I traded him, he was the number 15. He was the number 25 prospect in the majors. And he was the centerpiece of that deal, but I gave up other players too. Like Bryson Stott was my starting second baseman. So that's an example, just one example, but of a trade that it hurt. It was a painful decision to make that trade, as it should be if you're trading for a guy who is in the prime of his career, under contract, and like a top of the rotation starter. Paredes had some really good seasons in Seattle. And so I don't know what I'm going to do next year in terms of this. I think if I did anything, I would probably just bump one towards favors prospects. I'm interested to see how you guys, now that the game's been out for almost a year, what you guys settled on in terms of what you played before and what you play now. So of course, as I said, I was all the way towards hard. That's what she said. And then all the way towards favor prospects. And now I'm just one above both. And of course, I changed these ratings weights a little bit, but that I'm happy with. I'm not going to trade that. I'm not looking to change that. So the next thing that I kind of go back and forth on a lot is international free agents. And I generally leave the hard cap at 5 mil. But in terms of how many players to use, the default is fine, but you don't have as many players come in as in real life. You only have 34, and you'll normally just sign one guy for like $5 million and go on your way. With 136, I like it because the top players only sign for 3.5 million, maybe. There are outliers to that, but you can generally sign 2 to 3 players for this $5 million, with at least one of them being like a top player. So maybe that's not realistic to get that much talent into your organization in one international free agent signing, but I kind of liked it at the 136. But I'm interested to see what other people play it on, because this is one setting that I'm just never really totally happy with, or totally certain that I like the choice that I've made with it. I changed this at some point during the sim. I don't really remember when, but I changed it from the default to the a lot. I've never played with more or few. I've never played with none. I have taken the cap off, and that's like an interesting. That's definitely an interesting way to play it. But the big market teams can come out and make a splash for like 17 million on a guy. So maybe I should do that next year. Just take the cap off and don't be a big market team, and just have to be kind of more strategic about it. Again, something that I want to interested if you've taken the cap off. If you've played with a lot, if you've played with few, kind of what different things you do, and why you like it, and kind of what you think the pros and cons are of it. So again, I'm just kind of crowdsourcing here for some ideas on some of the settings that I kind of go back and forth on. Another one that I change a lot, and I don't really think that I will change, is under league settings and stats and AI. And it's this league totals thing. So basically, this says that it determines the stats output of the simulation engine. So basically, between preseason and spring training, you can come in and say what you want the offensive environment to be in your league. And for a while, I used to do 2016. And I found that this was modern baseball-ish, without the exaggerated strikeout and home run totals that we get in the major leagues these days, which certainly I'm not down on the game. You know, I think I've said this before, like I'm not like an old man yelling at clouds being like there's too many home runs and strikeouts. I mean, maybe they are, but I still love baseball either way, and I think Major League Baseball is fun. I did switch it to 2017 at some point in my sim, which is just a little bit more of power and strikeouts in 2016, but still not like the 2019, 2020 type stuff. If you do this, make sure that you go to Baseball Reference or some other handy site and or Fangraphs maybe, find the BABIP for that season and change it. Sometimes that's a little off. So like say you change 2017, find what the BABIP was in Major League Baseball for that season and change it to that. So again, you can do this during the preseason or spring training. And so yeah, I'm happy with 2017. There's a decent amount of offense. You can see, where is this again? It's under statistics and historical accuracy. So, you know, some of the drops at the beginning of my sim and power were huge. Let me go ahead down here. Let me just scroll this way. Really thrilling to watch me scroll. So you can see the home runs per at bat the first year of my sim fell to 0.34, which was actually exactly what it was in 2016. That was a huge drop from 2020, but I kind of like it like that. And then I went to 2017, which was a 0.37, which is kind of between 16 and 20, 21-ish. And it stayed around there. It dropped to 0.35. Yeah, it was kind of between 2016 and 2017, the rest of the sim. Strikeouts per at bat took a big drop and then settled in more around like the 2.4-ish, which is 2017, 0.242 strikeouts per at bat. So yeah, this is an interesting part of the game, kind of what run environment you want, because baseball has changed so many times in terms of if it's a pitching era or hitting era or a home run era, strikeout era. So I'm always interested to hear what other people play with and why. Again, the last couple versions played with 2016 until this year. I did bump it up to 2017 a few years into my sim because I just wanted a few more home runs added. So yeah, I think that those are kind of all the settings that I'm thinking through in terms of changing. Of course, there are a million other settings you can change, right? Like I did expand the league so that, that's a setting that I fiddle with. I do give the NL the DH. That's not something I'm going to change. I do keep the reliever minimum 3 batters faced. I know it might not be popular, but I like that rule. I like the strategy, the change in strategy from not having a minimum to having a minimum of 3. I like that. There are a few others that I sometimes tweak. I generally leave most of these alone in terms of roster sizes, DFA, waiver length, all that. I leave the IL length alone. And I don't do draft pick trading. I know some of you guys out there do, and you love it. I've never done it. I don't know. Maybe when real life MLB does it, if they ever do it, I will come around to that. But just not something that I like to mess with right now. I allow evolution of the league on, but sometimes I undo it. Like there was one time, what did they do? And I've had them shrink the 40-man roster size or things like that. I don't really mess with that. I think that next year in Out of the Park, I think what you will see some things will change because the CBA from the lockout in real life major leagues is going to have some changes, like the free agent minimum service. Maybe a change to the minimum salary, change to the draft. So some of these things might be changed for us because it's different in real life next year. I think that's a pretty safe bet. So I think those were all of them. I kind of wanted to talk through them and just make sure I'm not missing any. Yeah, again, so let me know what you think, especially about the aging speed, the trade difficulty, international free agents, the league totals under stats and AI. What do you guys play with? What do you like? Tell me about it, and we'll be sure to carry on that conversation in the comments. So thanks for watching. Thanks for letting me run this all by you. Talk to you in the next video.